So, I did my presentation on Peru. I chose Peru at the beginning of the semester because I have close ties to the country and I think it is a very beautiful and vibrant place. I was able to study abroad in Cusco last summer for 6 weeks, which was a crazy experience. My grandmother is also from Lima, and my family and I visit her there every summer, which has allowed me kind of to fall in love with the country over time. It's very close to my heart, and I wanted to spend this semester learning a little bit more about it, which I'm glad that I did. I learned a lot, and it's been really fun. Peru's geography and topography is incredibly varied, which is one of the reasons the country is so beautiful. It is home to the Andean highlands, also known as the Sierra, which alone counts for one-fourth of Peru's land. These mountains are where many of the ancient civilizations lived, and currently, most of those that live in the highlands live at elevations above 10,000 feet. Lima is prone to earthquakes and seismic activity as it lies on an axis of instability in the crust of the earth. Most of the activity that happens is light and causes minimal damage, so it's not that big of a deal. Peru is also home to a part of the Amazon rainforest as well as the Amazon River. The Amazon is where a lot of the indigenous groups of Peru are living. I was able to learn this semester when I went to a talk for one of the events, and the anthropologist was talking about indigenous groups in the Amazon and saying how they choose to be isolated. Most of them are isolated and they know they are isolated and they choose to stay that way because they know that they aren't immune to a lot of the diseases that can be brought onto them by mixing with other people that aren't indigenous. So I thought that was kind of interesting that I learned this semester. Peru is also situated on the west of South America and therefore has a coastline on its west side. The coastline is riddled with desert land, and it is also where Lima is located, which kind of makes for a cool city for Lima. It's on the coast, and there's mountains and whatnot, so it's pretty cool. It's hard to encompass Peru's culture in such a short period of time because there's so much to its culture that it's hard to choose what to talk about. But probably the most prominent part of Peru's culture is the presence of the ancient civilizations in today's culture. The Quechua is a native group of people who are descendants of the Incas. They are located in the central Andes mostly and are responsible for keeping the Quechua language alive. The Quechua language is an official language of Peru and is spoken by many. The Quechua's religion is a combination of pre Columbian and Catholicism. They believe that supernatural forces are responsible for everyday happenings, which is a sign of pre-Columbian influence. The Quechua therefore believe that offerings to the powers or gods that control natural happenings can influence their lives. Many traditions of the Quechua are very prominent in everyday life in Peru and are practiced by even those who are not of Inca descent. The best example of this is Inti Raymi, which is Quechua for Sun Festival. It takes place on June 24th in Cusco and is meant to celebrate the beginning of the winter solstice. I was lucky enough to witness the celebration in Cusco as well as participate in it. Inti Raymi is basically a day-long parade and festival in the Plaza de Armas in Cusco, and many of the local school children participate in the parade by dancing. The university I was attending annually participates as well as the students, and we were able to dress up in traditional clothing and perform a dance in the Plaza de Armas. The picture on the top right of the screen is what I was able to wear, and it was really interesting and cool. I got a couple of stares. We were kind of laughed at, but it was fun. Um, so that was kind of an interesting experience that I did, and it's one of the biggest festivals of the year happening in Cusco. Um, so for the history, many people can only name the Incas when discussing the history of Peru. And while the Inca civilization was the most significant in Peru's history, there were many other civilizations that came before the Incas that were also important. In order, the Chavan, Nazca, Mochi, Wari, and Chimu were all vital civilizations that set the groundwork for many of the Incas' innovations and ways of life. The Incas were based out of Cusco, which was divided into four quarters then, and was the capital of the Inca civilization. The Inca state had a king and had a subsequent hierarchy. The state levied a tax on the citizens in exchange for land, and everyone was allocated land as long as they sent out a portion of their agriculture back to the state. The state would then redistribute the food accordingly to the population as well as use it to throw parties. The Incas eventually lost their power in the late 1470s when they were overtaken by conquistadors from Spain. The leader of these conquistadors was Francisco Pizarro. The Spaniards came at a time of internal turmoil in the government of Cusco, of the Incas, which allowed the Incas to be vulnerable to a conquest because they didn't have a strong state government at the time. The Spaniards also brought disease, which wiped out a majority of the native population, which is a common theme among other conquests in other parts of Latin America at the time. They also had more advanced war techniques and weapons and were able to swiftly take over the Inca civilization at the time. Peru gained its independence finally back from Spain in 1821, 4 centuries later, thanks to Jose de San Martin and his forces. Peru is one of the world's leading producers of cocaine today, and this is partly as a result of Peru having been a leading exporter of coca and cocaine in the 19th century, prior to the outlawing of cocaine by the US and subsequently Peru. Um, this was one of my favorite case studies that I did with studying organized crime in Peru. It's super interesting and fascinating, kind of. When cocaine was outlawed, it created a huge surge in the illegal production and export of cocaine in Peru. Therefore, organized crime in Peru is very heavily focused around drug production and exportation, specifically for cocaine, of course. While researching this topic for my case study, it was interesting to learn how strong the family ties are within organized crime groups. For example, an article on Inside Crime describes a crime group that had been arrested in 2014. They were a drug trafficking clan that was comprised of the group leader's romantic partner, that partner's sisters, and other siblings of the group leader. This is a very common dynamic found in organized crime in Peru. Another aspect of organized crime in Peru is guerrilla groups. The most infamous guerrilla group in Peru is the Shining Path. The Shining Path was founded in 1970 after the split of the Communist Party. This group endorsed Maoism, and the leader and his followers made it their goal in the group to restore the ideology of Mao Zedong from China. They used China's Cultural Revolution as an inspiration. The next case study that I did that I liked was tourism. Tourism is obviously a huge industry for Peru. There are endless places to travel to in Peru and endless travel agencies to help you do so. Machu Picchu is a top tourist destination in Peru, as it is one of the 7 wonders of the world. It sees over 1 million tourists annually. Cusco is a major hub for tourism, as it is home to many tourist agencies and is sort of a pit stop before traveling to many other places such as Machu Picchu, Rainbow Mountain, Sacred Valley, and Lake Titicaca. Most of the attractions in Peru are nature-related as well as history-related. Machu Picchu is the ancient home of the Inca king, and the Sacred Valley contains many ancient Inca ruins. A big part of tourism in Peru is also photo ops. This slide has a couple of typical tourist pictures that I took while I was in Peru last summer. You can't walk down the street in Cusco without getting asked if you want to take a picture with a baby llama or alpaca for money. The top left picture is one I took of a floating island in Lake Titicaca. I got this picture during a private tour of the lake in which we stayed overnight with the family on Amantani Island. This type of trip is very commonly offered by many agencies and is typical of Peruvian tourism. Another interesting case study that I did was about politics. The government and political processes in Peru are surprisingly similar to those of the US. Peru has a representative democratic republic, and its government is divided into legislative, executive, and judicial branches. The president is elected for a 5-year term and is not able to run for re-election afterwards. The main body of the executive branch is comprised of the Council of Ministers, which is a group of 15 people who are led by a prime minister. These 15 members are all personally appointed by the president, and they are responsible for approving all laws that are sent to Congress. The legislative branch is a Congress comprised of 120 members. The multi-party system in Peru prevents Congress from being overtaken by one party. The most recent election took place last June between Keiko Fujimori and Pedro Pablo Kuczynski. Kuczynski beat Fujimori in a close race and is now the current president. He's the man in the picture on the bottom right. An interesting little bit about Fujimori is that her father, Alberto Fujimori, pictured in the top right, was the president of Peru from 1990 to 2000. He is now in jail for crimes against humanity because during his presidency he fought against the Shining Path guerrilla group that I have previously mentioned a few slides back. He granted his military the ability to arrest members of the group and try them in secret courts, where they had few legal rights. He is the reason that presidents are now not allowed to serve more than one term. Many people were turned off by Keiko Fujimori during her time in the election because she has never spoken out against what her father did during his presidency, and they also felt uncomfortable having her be president while her father is in jail for crimes that he committed during his own presidency. This semester has been really fun learning about a lot of different things that I didn't already know about Peru. Peru is a fascinating country for so many reasons. Its history and culture is so rich, its geography has endless things to offer us, and the people are incredibly interesting. One of the most interesting things I learned about Peru this semester was how similar its government was to our government. Peru is a country that I believe is thriving in comparison to some other countries in Latin America. With their new president, I believe that Peru will only grow to become an even better country with stronger industries and a stronger group of people.